college basketball didn't get weird this weekend. It got honest. Kansas went to Lubbock and found out confidence has a depth chart. North Carolina needed a whistle parade just to feel comfortable. BYU still refuses to play two halves once they leave home. And Texas Tech turns out tough, gets real thin when one piece goes missing. This stretch is where reputations stop carrying teams and habits start exposing them. No more hiding behind rankings. No more they'll figure it out. Benches are empty. Defenses are optional. And a lot of teams are learning that February does not care about preseason expectations. Brad, who just got caught bluffing?
Well, here's the problem. Too many teams still want credit for what they meant to be. Texas Tech without Anderson showed how thin that edge really is. Kansas didn't dominate them. They survived the situation. UNC leaned on the whistle instead of control. BYU's road issues aren't a phase anymore. They're a personality trait, truly. February doesn't reward intentions. It punishes weakness. And a lot of teams just found out their margin for error was imaginary. And that first game we got to get to talking about happened last night, which is the Syracuse at North Carolina game.
I got one comment about this game because it wasn't much of a game. I'm 99% sure North Carolina players were betting on this. The line was 11.5, and North Carolina had a 31-point lead deep into the second half, and Syracuse chipped this down to 10. That is a bad beat and a half for anybody who laid money line or the points on this one. Because, North Carolina looked fantastic until they basically stopped playing.
Great until they didn't.
They did get to the free throw line quite a bit, but the fouls stopped being called in the last 5 or 6 minutes, and the refs kind of swallowed the whistle a little bit. I think they might have been in on it too, because, like I said, at 11.5, for that thing to get down to 10 when it did, seems a little fishy to me.
I don't know. That's a fun point. I just North Carolina got sloppy and they just forgot to keep their foot down. And Syracuse is very good at chipping things down and just mucking games up and making you play sloppier than you want to play. And that's kind of what got North Carolina. Got them got it down to 10 after being up 30 is crazy. But the thing watching this, I thought was Vassar, however you say his name, he determines how this team goes. He led the team in assists. One of the better players. Anytime he steps on the floor, he's a very, very good player. But he's the one that's starting this drink because everybody knows Wilson is all-world player, but he can get a little sloppy. And he's going to carry the team for the most part, carry the heaviest weight. It's just Vassar's on this North Carolina team is good, and when he's not, they're bad. And you can kind of see it in that Syracuse game. When he's playing well, they go up 31, and when he's not, the wheels fall off because they don't really have much of guard play to control that offense. I don't know. That's all I learned out of that game. Everything else was, we knew Syracuse was mediocre at best, and I don't know how good North Carolina is even with Vassar, but 31-point lead down to 10 is crazy.
Yeah, it was like I said, I wouldn't have thought anything of it until I realized what the line was. I don't know, some of the stuff that's been happening in college sports here recently, NBA, other sports with, betting and all that controversy. It just seemed fishy.
Everybody could use a few extra dollars.
All right, now the big game. Let's get right into this one. It's just Kansas at Texas Tech. It lived up to it, but without Christian Anderson, it was a pretty big bummer.
It kind of lived up to it. Felt like minimal offense in this game, and it was actually nice and refreshing to see Peterson in at the very end of the game because it actually paid dividends for Kansas this time around.
He just
buries that three. It felt like Texas Tech just needed a stop in a bucket for a guaranteed win there, and then they couldn't do anything right in the last minute. And Peterson hit that game tying three, which was an absolute monster. But when we talk about load management with this kid, that's why you do it. You want him in at the end of the game and maybe not the start, because right there, he looked mortal the entire game, but that was a huge shot and a huge moment for a Kansas team that's riding a wave of momentum right now, and that might put them in the top 10. I think they're 11 right now.
Yeah, it definitely will because somebody's going to lose in the top 10. I don't know. Do we deem Kansas because we were talking about Kansas being a top 5 team if they won this game in Lubbock last time out, but that doesn't ring necessarily true without Anderson because the Texas Tech offense looked lost, especially at the end of the game. They could not figure out what they're doing, and he's a big defensive presence too. But Peterson, extremely clutch, 2 clutch shots, and there was no hesitation in taking it. But what the heck was Toppin doing there on the game tying one? He steps out on him with his hand up. Peterson hesitates, and he puts his hand down. Peterson's like, all right, wham, right in his face. Like, you knew exactly what was needed right there. All you had to do is chase him off the 3-point arc, and you probably win that game. But instead, you put your hand down because, I don't know.
He probably worried about Peterson blowing by him, but even then, you're
up 3.
Protecting a 3-point lead. Let him blow by you.
Yeah, who cares? Let him go and
don't foul.
Then, I mean, there was some missed free throws and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, Texas Tech is as thin as we ever thought they were. I mean, they had guys shooting out there that were having the game of their life. I think one guy had 6 points on the year, and he ends up with 9 points that night. Like, and it's just Kansas keeps trucking through it. I don't like it. I don't like the way they look. I don't like how thin they are. But a guy like Peterson at the college level makes all the difference in the world because you have to key your defense on him. And I'm not a huge fan of Council's game, but that dude is lightning quick. I mean, he might be faster than most players in the NCAA with the ball in his hand. He could be slowed down by dribbling and still be faster than most other people. It's unbelievable to me. So adding him in there it's a good pairing with Peterson. Peterson's just so silky smooth. If I'm the number 1 pick, I don't know what I do because that injury history is there and it's scary. But he's definitely the best player.
Yeah, just how easy he can make it look is pretty astonishing. And it's got to be frustrating to watch for opposing teams to go back and watch that film. But sometimes you just got to be like, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
As I said, like JT Toppin took his hand down for a split second and the tying 3 goes in.
Yeah.
And I mean, Toppin had a rough night, but Watts played well. It's just, they couldn't shoot for anything. Really, there's 0 bench for Kansas either. So I don't know that I like either of these teams to do a lot in March, but shocking to me at how good Peterson is every time I get to watch him play.
If each team playing their best, I mean, in full strength, which one would you say right now would be able to go the deepest, like in the tournament?
Full strength, like as in Peterson's playing 30-plus minutes a game?
Yes.
Kansas.
Yeah. Easy.
So hands down, no doubter.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Guards win you March.
Yeah.
1,000%. These are the best one out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate saying it because I like the Texas Tech team, but they are captain inconsistent, if anything.
Exactly.
It's very unfortunate. I mean, there's no off nights in the Big 12. I mean, that's 2 in a row now. Texas Tech has lost there with UCF and Kansas back to back. So they were playing themselves out of a good seed and out of any kind of contention for the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, that's true too. This had a lot of those implications. And I believe, we're going to talk a little bit about that here later on in the episode about the Big 12. Jake, tell these folks who may be the first time checking us out on the bench, how they can interact with us and how they can get involved.
If this is your first time here, this is what we do. Midweek heaters, weekend receipts, and no BS college hoops when it matters. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Hey, what about some of these AP poll? Do any of you all have any AP poll reactions? Anything that really sticks out?
Yeah, I got a couple things. Like, I know you guys have had some questions about UConn. I really don't have any UConn questions. They got jumped by Michigan. Michigan obviously beats 2 top 10 teams back to back. So deserve to be number 2, but I also think maybe UConn's not getting enough love and they're back in that dreaded number 3 spot where nobody wants to be. Illinois jumping up 4 spots, very well deserved. Top 5 team, might be a top 4 team. I mean, obviously the top 4 right now are just absolutely fantastic and absolutely loaded. We've got 3 total losses in the top 4, which is just absolutely unheard of. And then I saw here recently, I know Iowa State's moved back up to number 7. I saw here recently where a lot of teams or a lot of places are considering Iowa State for a 1-line still. I do not see that. I was on CBS the other day and it had Iowa State jumping UConn. And to me, that just seems egregious. And then another one, I mean, obviously Michigan State gets punished a little bit and Kansas jumps up a little bit for what they've did over the last week. But Purdue, in my opinion, had a really bad loss to IU and where they didn't look good at all. And then they played a lowly Maryland team and absolutely dog walked them and kind of looked like they're getting back on track a little bit. But for them to not move didn't seem like a natural course of action. Obviously, everybody around them kind of lost, like Texas Tech's lost, and now they're back to back. So they're going to drop even further. Vandy, I think they had a recent loss. BYU lost. Florida got dog walked by Auburn, but, wins again and then jumps up 2 spots. A lot of these moves just don't make much sense to me. It's like, I think the AP poll is kind of like going on name recognition more than anything else, but it's just some questions that I have. I mean, I guess it's hard to make sense of everything that's going on in basketball outside the top 5 because the top 5 looks so damn solid right now, but it's like some of these teams that are moving or not moving just don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that it's everything like after 10 down. I don't know that the AP voters know what they're looking at. Like you said, Purdue takes a bad loss coming off 2 other bad losses and then beats a terrible Maryland team and beat them like a drum. Doesn't move, but you're going to punish UConn there for not winning by a lot. They're playing close games and playing nobodies, but then at the same time, Duke takes off like the same logic would put Duke at 3 and still have UConn slide down 1 more because Duke is handling their business, beating the teams and beating ranked teams.
Yeah, make it make sense.
That doesn't make sense. Nebraska loses on the road and Illinois drops 4 spots, but Michigan State does the same thing and only dropped 3. I don't know. Vandy, I don't understand Vandy moving up 3 spots because that made no sense to me other than you just wanted to punish BYU for losing a couple tight games. And it felt like Florida paid absolutely no penalties for getting drilled by Auburn at home. And then Clemson moves up after that. Well, I don't like anything. They're just taking blind guesses because the fact that Louisville's still ranked is
that's my biggest mistake. Yeah,
and you can't give A&M enough love to get them in the rankings. Or number 1 in the SEC, who you're saying is a top tier conference. They're what 1 loss in conferences to Tennessee. So you've got Tennessee ranked above them for what? Then I don't know. None of that makes sense. But I kind of agree with Iowa State with a chance at the 1 line because that if they finish out the Big 12 and went out on the Big 12, there's a heck of it. That's going to be a heck of a resume that they've built up. Where UConn's, this is where the Big East being bad absolutely hurts UConn. Their resume is going to get 0% better than what it was in December.
It does hurt them, but at the same time, what UConn did in their non-con is remarkable. They lost to the number 1 team who hasn't lost to anybody yet by 4 points without 2 starters, and you have to put weight behind that. You cannot punish them that much for playing in a bad conference if you don't do the same thing to a Gonzaga. And that doesn't ever happen to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is probably going to wind up on a 2 line because they play nobody state every other day. But UConn in the non-con, did everything they were absolutely supposed to do. I'd love to see the Arizona game played again with Reed and Mullins. I bet you the result's different. This UConn team has issues, but if they handle the rest of their conference season and get 2 wins over St. John's, in the hypothetical, you can't argue them being on a 1 line. 1-loss team to the number 1 team in the country by 4 points without 2 starters. Yeah, you're going to be a 1 line.
I just know they're leaning more towards metrics-driven stuff than who you beat. And KenPom has Iowa State number 4. The net rankings, which is their precious ones, have Iowa State 4. KenPom is harder on Connecticut than I am. It's got them at 10 with because the offense dragging them way down to 10. But it's when you start looking at the metrics and what they're going to use to determine that, you're seeing Iowa State 1 line and UConn at the 2. It's just interesting. Like you said, they had a very good non-conference, but some of their wins aren't carrying as much weight as you want them to. BYU losing those ones in conference hurts. Florida not yo-yoing and going all the way unranked hurt them. In St. John, same thing. The St. John's team, if they beat them, they're going unranked on Friday. So that doesn't help you as much anymore. It's just the Big East has absolutely hurt them in hair splitting decisions. because it's so bad.
I would argue
And
that
they're not beating people like if they were beating them by 30 and 20 and 30 every night, like if they were handling everybody like they're handling, they played Xavier tonight. It's like a 30-point game.
they're beating them like an absolute
If
drummer.
they were doing that, like not even this bad, like 20-point wins, 15 to 20-point wins every night, I don't think the argument exists. They're leaving the door open by going to overtime with Providence and overtime with Villanova. 6-point win here and 7-point win here, where they had to make a big comeback in the second half. They're leaving that door open. Unfortunately, they might come back to bite them.
I would argue that if you were to shut the book right now, the Cincinnati loss is extremely, extremely bad compared to the Arizona loss for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the argument is not that the losses or whatever. It's going to be the wins. I think the wins are going to count more, and that's what the projections are taking right now. Now, when the committee gets in the room, do they count wins more than they do losses? I don't know, but
Yeah,
it's every year that changes on if they value wins more than losses or if they value losses more than wins.
I personally don't see it. I think it would be absolutely egregious if it happened. And obviously, it's all hypothetical.
Yeah, just like I said, they're leaving the door open for that to happen to them. They might slam it shut if they keep going 30-piece on that night the way it ends. But right now, they've left it open enough that Iowa State going through the Big 12 and maybe only loses one more to Arizona is an argument to be made.
Yeah, because they still have it's a gauntlet. Kansas, Houston, BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, Arizona. Like that's a lot to finish out the year.
Then whatever happens in the Big 12 tournament, so they'll probably get a couple of those teams twice if everything goes right.
Mm-hmm. And just breaking news here, Chris Beard has just been ejected from the Tennessee Ole Miss game.
Tennessee flipped a script on that one. That was a 1-point game at half, and that was a 21-point game.
Yeah, that was a dog and pony show ejection. He was getting 20-pieced and decided that he was going to finally react to something aggressively. Yeah, congratulations, Beard. You made a lot of noise leaving a game that you're getting 20-pieced in. So good bounce back from Tennessee here.
Yeah, it was nice to see Tennessee wake up in the second half. They meant working on a 20-point half right now.
Yeah, he has been fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a good signal game for Tennessee. When we talked about this, love what I'm seeing now. A lot happier. I still don't like. It's not as what I hoped we would be with like Final Four potential and whatnot at the beginning of the year. But now we're at least in the conversation that we can at least get hot and get there and get lucky.
For sure.
This is the Tennessee team we needed to see. And defense is there, offense is playing well, and this will make 4 in a row. Going into a big weekend, you keep it going like it's going to be, because we get a chance to redeem ourselves against Kentucky and then get a couple off nights ish until we go at Vandy again. So I'm feeling good about Tennessee. And last time I said that after the Houston loss, they proceeded to just their pants on the floor all night for a couple months. Felt like.
Yeah, they're letting Ole Miss have it right now. And I believe UConn, like we said, is doing the same to Xavier.
Yeah, they're breaks off of them. I don't even have starters in anymore.
Well, I hope not. It's over. 32-point win.
When I looked earlier, it was 28, and I didn't see Mullins' minutes moving. I didn't see Reed's minutes moving. I don't have the game on. I've had Tennessee Ole Miss here, just hoping for after that first half. I was hoping it's like maybe show some signs of life on offense, and clearly they have.
Yeah, three guys really carried the way there with Reed, Mullins, and Demery. And then I don't know who got cleanup minutes and who didn't on the bench, but 3 of their starters had 13 or more. Mullins shot fairly well. Caravan with a big game without scoring. I mean, not 9 points, but he had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. A little bit of everything.
1 turnover.
Yeah, and then I mean, this is what you need to see in this garbage of a Big East. Like they can't let teams hang around because all that does is hurt them. They've got to absolutely slam the door shut every time. But in good news, Miami of Ohio goes on the road and wins 2-point game there at Buffalo, staying undefeated.
And winning in some weird, unconventional ways too. I don't think this one was ever it wasn't like the forcing overtime with 0.2 seconds left on the clock or anything like that. But it's just a gritty, undefeated season so far.
not to rain on people's parade, but looking at strength of schedules, have you seen what theirs is?
I have to assume it's in the high 200s, low 300s.
4 out of
Yeah.
363.
Oh man.
Okay.
Congrats.
I mean, like you said, it is hard to win 22, 23, 24, whatever they are in a row. But there's a possibility that we have a one-loss Miami of Ohio who loses in the MAC championship to Akron or something. This is a decent team. Just totally miss tournament, like not even in the discussion, not even on the bubble, because that's wild to me. It's going to be interesting to see what the committee does when they're getting in the room and how much they value just wins outright. Like, because they're going to have close to 30 wins, if not above 30, when the discussion is being said. And the worst part for little teams like this too, that conference tournament is going to be early. It's going to be late February or like early March when it's over. So they're going to be forgotten, like from a public standpoint.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing anything special, like big splash right there at the end to make sure you remember them. I know you can't totally control your schedule, but you can at least throw a couple Power 5 teams on there or something to up that a little bit.
The coach was pleading his case. He was like, "Somebody play us," but I was like,
"But didn't you decide that schedule a couple years ago?
Who cares?"
This is more conferences need to do, and I think it is the Sun Belt or the Big South. What they do is they leave 2 weeks towards the end of the year, or maybe at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, their conference play, where their top 4 teams play each other.
Yes.
To give everybody an extra chance at a quad 1 win. So they kind of leave that blank, and then everybody else they schedule it out. I know that's probably a pain in the ass to schedule, but doing that improves their chances and stuff like this. Because if you get an extra game with Akron or Toledo or something like that maybe ups that schedule a little bit. And then also these teams need to do the freaking WCC tournament bracket where Gonzaga and St. Mary's only have to play 2 games to go to the tournament instead of getting upset because you've got 4 games from the win the conference heads, especially these smaller conferences, got to think you only get the money if your team makes it. If a team makes it, and you only get a lot of money if they steal a game. So you've got to put your best. Make sure you got to protect your best teams a little bit more.
And then Duke wins 67-49.
I don't know where Duke's offense has gone.
Don't need it when you're playing that kind of suffocating defense.
Yes, but the ACC is about as garbage as the Big East. So I'm worried what this means going forward because Evans and Boozer tonight, nobody else felt like doing much, apparently. The bench has been useless here recently. And a lot of that was Kaminya and Harris are probably garbage minutes anyway. Boozer had a great night. 19-12, 2 assists, 5 steals. Evans shot okay, but there's no reason for those 2 guys to be playing 30 minutes against Boston College. The defense is suffocating, and it's great. And Shire is an underrated coach. I don't because of the Duke name. If he was doing what he's doing at any really besides 3 schools, he's going to be. They're going to talk. Everybody's going to be talking about him like possibly the greatest coach to have come through and all this stuff. He's doing an incredible job, but he's at one of the 3 schools that it doesn't get to show up as much, or people weren't going to point to the name on the jersey versus what he's doing. And I hate that for him because he's doing an absolutely fantastic job.
Definitely.
Absolutely. All right. That's all the games for tonight, I believe, that haven't been played or that have played.
St. John's is struggling with DePaul.
Yeah, and the St. Louis Davidson games got off to an interesting start too. So more to come on those.
Nothing else. This is just a bad week in scheduling for, you're going to get those when you have some crap teams in the big conferences and whatnot.
All right. Then we've got Wednesday's games. First one, let's talk about the UCF at Houston game. Which Houston are we going to see,
This UCF team is just absolutely fighting and clawing for some kind of national respect. I don't think they get it here at Houston, but this would be a good statement game for this team that, in my opinion, should be in the top 25.
I agree.
I think Louisville should have been kicked out. I think UCF should have been in. And this is an opportunity for UCF to say, hey, I deserve to be there. I don't think they get it done in Houston, but I do think this will be an interesting game. I think 14.5 is quite a lot of points here. So very interested to see what the outcome of this game is.
Yeah, it really depends on which Houston's going to show up. And the same thing for UCF. They've not been great away. And Houston's not like their offense is hit or miss. I mean, but because they're coming off of a big win against Cincinnati at home where they won by 22, and it was never that close. And you had Uzon finally wake up a bit, and you had Flemings have a bad game, but then they also went to TCU and only won by 9 after losing at Texas Tech. But I mean, this Houston team confuses me so much. With typically they're very physical team, and they're getting the line, and that this team is so happy to live on the 3-point arc, and they don't get to the free throw line. And I think that plays a little bit in the UCF's hands here, because UCF has got a pretty good defense. And their offense is fairly good too, but they do a great job of preventing offensive rebounds, and that was a big reason they beat Texas Tech. They do a fantastic job of guarding the 3-point arc, especially when you start looking just like in conference play. They shoot it well. I watched pretty much all that Texas Tech game, and that made me a believer in Fultz as a point guard. So now you had him with Kygo out there. Like they've got some guys, they got some size too with a Bowl. So like, I don't know. I think 14.5 is a lot too. But it also wouldn't shock me if this game ended up 30 plus, because Houston's defense suffocates them out, and Flemings has a 40-point night, and this game goes nuts. But I don't know. It's a game I'm definitely gonna have a lot of attention here, because this is very interesting, especially for like Big 12 standing point, and also does UCF have a chip on the shoulder enough to go to Houston and pull it off?
What about Michigan State at Minnesota?
I've got some concerns for Michigan State here. They're a 6.5-point favorite here. Minnesota has proved to be a tough place to play and a tough team to beat. Jake, I think you have a note in here that they are the best bad team out there, but they are pesky, and there just feels like there's some like weird rumblings about Michigan State right now, like some dirty play and some dangerous play and yada, yada, yada. And then there's been some talks about some locker room stuff that was going on after Michigan, and this might be Minnesota's chance to catch them sleeping a little bit. Do I think it happens? No. Am I on alert for it to happen? Absolutely, because this Minnesota team is just pesky.
Yeah, this is one that if Minnesota wins, it's not going to shock me at all. I'm not expecting it to happen. Michigan State is relying on that defense so much, and they're taking away the 3 ball like crazy. But I don't think that really affects this Minnesota team that much. Minnesota at home has played well, but I mean they beat Iowa at home on like early January and haven't won a game since. Just lost at Penn State. But what's scary here, if you're a Michigan State fan, is one, the people that are setting a line to make money think this will be tighter than most people out of the models. 2, in conference play, you're turning the ball over at an unreal rate. More than 1 out of every 5 possessions has ended up you giving the ball to another team. This is also a very good sleep spot. You're hearing a lot of love for Illinois. They're moving into the top 5. They've got a pretty good hold on the number 1 spot there with Michigan in the Big Ten, and that's who you got Saturday. Traveling to Minnesota, I don't even know where Minnesota, like, are they in Duluth or something crazy like that? Wherever you got to go to in Minnesota and the freezing cold temperatures that are happening, do that, and you're gonna have to turn around and bounce back quick for an Illinois game. This could be a very trappy spot. It's one that if the line got to double digits, I'm pounding Minnesota, but it's one I'm definitely watching to see what's going to happen as that gets closer. I kind of want to call my shot, but I'm a little nervous to do it. But I think I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say Minnesota gets them. Do it. Put some money on it.
I did that with Nebraska, and it bit me in the ass, so I'm not going to do that again.
All right. What about BYU at Oklahoma State? I thought this line was interesting. BYU at 6.5.
I've got just one comment on this. I will write off BYU as any shot at making noise in the tournament if they lose to this Oklahoma team. That's just my opinion on this. I think this BYU team really just kind of struggles with who they want to be and when they want to be them. And if they can't get it done with Oklahoma, it doesn't make me feel confident that they'll get it done with anybody big in the Big 12 or anybody in March.
Yeah, I think the holes in this BYU team are starting to get glaring, because if you start looking at their Big 12 wins, it's nobody that you're going to call a value. Like, you've got Kansas State, Arizona State, Utah, TCU, and Utah. There are 3 losses in the Big 12: Texas Tech, Arizona, and Kansas. So even if they do win, like if they happen to lose this, I write them completely off because that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing they have going with in the first half and second half, they're going to get absolutely caught and ran out of the gym and somebody in March. And it's going to happen because that means they've got a heck of a schedule coming up because you've got Houston up there, you got Arizona, Iowa State. I mean, at this point, Baylor and Cincinnati isn't a given. You got Texas Tech again. They could absolutely play themselves down to like a 6 or 7 seed here.
Yeah.
If not worse, because they can't figure out how to play in the first half. Defense has been figured out a little bit, and he's not adjusted too much. They've figured out ways to make him very inefficient, and that is killing this BYU team because him having to get his numbers is having to take a crazy amount of shots, and you're ended up with a lot of people standing around. But part of that is because like guys like Kennard Davis and Kevin Keita are useless offensively out there right now, and Richie Saunders about the only one. Like Robert Wright shows up most nights, but if he doesn't show up and Saunders is off, this BYU team is rough.
In trouble.
I don't expect much out of Oklahoma State. I think they'll take care of business, but if they don't, this will be scary time to be a BYU team or fan.
All right, and now we've got Clemson at Stanford.
Like I put this one on here because, like that Pittsburgh game is. The more I look into it, Clemson is nuts. You hold Pittsburgh to 16 points, and you only win by 10 because you forgot to score. I mean, the lead only got to 20, and you gave up 16 in the first half. It's shockingly bad. Trying to go out to Stanford, like the travel is going to be rough. This game took a lot of life left this game a lot when Okereke or whatever his name is, that freshman for Stanford, got hurt.
Okereke.
Yeah, him. Like when he gets hurt, so like I don't know what Stanford's going to do, but Stanford has picked off several ranked teams at home. That travel gets teams, and offense is a thing that doesn't travel as well. And you're already struggling offensively, so that defense better come with its A game because it could be brutal. And if you lose this one, nobody's making up 2 games with Duke in the ACC.
Yeah.
So this would pretty much just hand the ACC regular season title to Duke if you lose this one. And I don't trust anything about this Clemson team right now. I don't think they're playing that well. I think they're skating by on bad ACC. I mean, they lost to NC State in overtime. That's their one loss, but they've not played anybody of value yet, really. Their best win being Miami or SMU. Like this is just not going to go well, I don't believe.
And then the all by themselves, all by their lonesome, and I love that it's on Friday night, is UConn at St. John at Madison Square Garden.
Themselves. No, this is the game of the Big East. This is like, here's my thing, is like if UConn goes into Madison Square Garden, this really should be called a neutral because they both play at MSG all the time. If UConn goes in and wins this, I think it puts to bed the one-line conversation about UConn. I think if they lose it, they drop down to a 2 at best. But then you start questioning, is UConn even going to win the Big East? And if UConn doesn't win the Big East, are they a 2 seed?
Yeah.
So those are the questions you have to start asking. I don't think UConn loses this game. I really don't. But to Jake's point earlier, if they play with their food, if they let St. John's hang around, or if, God forbid, St. John's comes out and just absolutely mollywops UConn, then we can start really asking those questions about this UConn team. Because their one loss, again, I've said it a million times, is to an Arizona team when they were missing 2 starters. It's now in February. The flaws are exposed. The holes are open. You can't hide behind anything anymore. You're not figuring things out. Everybody's there. Everybody's healthy. It's a good chance for UConn to put their stamp on the season or lose all the momentum that they have going into March.
Yeah, like digging into this game, it was very interesting to me because right now, with just in conference games, the most efficient offense, your best 3-point shooting team, best team at taking care of the ball and cleaning up the glass is St. John's. They are taking care of everything offensively. Defense isn't too far behind, but UConn's got the best defense and the best one at forcing the turnover. So it's just interesting to me because I would have thought that would have been flipped. Thinking about it, just like going into the season, I would have thought St. John's is living off turnovers and forcing your turnovers and cleaning up the glass, cleaning up their own misses, and then skating back on decent half court offense. But UConn's going to have to clean this up, clean their act up a little bit here And I haven't dug into the stats too much the last 2 games that they've blown opponents out. So that would be they might have. But if they play sloppy at all, because this is more of a St. John's home game. I think they play just enough games there on years that Madison Square Garden hosts. But if they're not hosting tournament, they play about half their home games there. So it's like it should be a fantastic game. Should be a fantastic atmosphere. Wish I could go, man. But if that gym gets rocking with a few turnovers and some big dunks and out of BYU, St. John's, the pressure could get to UConn. But one thing UConn has absolutely shown is there is no game pressure that affects them.
No.
They come through at all times. So if you beat UConn, you've got to beat UConn, and
you got to bury them.
yeah. So it's gonna be a fantastic game. I'm so happy that it's the only game of value on Friday, really. So it should be a thrill to watch.
All right. So before we get into our next segment, just want to mention that keep an eye out for when we have more information. We're going to do a March Madness bracket pool with win-where as a giveaway. So that's going to be exciting. Listen, March Madness is next month, y'all. Next month. It is getting closer and closer, and that is exciting. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll on all of our socials, we'll share that and share the details and all that good stuff. It's going to be a good time. Looking forward to that.
Maybe some free stuff given away, some nice like hats or jerseys or something. It should be a good time.
Nice. All right. So for our bench court, we did this last week. I think it was our first one, where we kind of talked about the conference race chaos since we're halfway through the conference schedule. And for tonight, we'll be digging into the Big 12, Big 10, and the SEC. So let's go ahead and kind of kick things off at the Big 12. We have Arizona, who's in first with and then you've got Houston, Iowa State, and Kansas that are about 2 games back.
So I've heard a handful of times that the Big 12 is Arizona's to lose. I'm gonna argue that just a little bit here because Arizona hasn't exactly faced the gauntlet yet. That gauntlet is coming up here. So what do you need to do in March to win an NCAA tournament? You have to win 6 games in a row, right? Well, Arizona's got Oklahoma State this Saturday, but then they're at Kansas, home against Texas Tech, home against BYU, at Houston, little break with Baylor, but then home against Kansas, home against Iowa State, and then they end on Colorado. That is a gauntlet. That is an absolute gauntlet to end the year. I think this Big 12 race is still way, way, way up in the air here. I can see Arizona running away with it. I can see Houston winning this conference. I can see Iowa State winning this conference. I can see Kansas winning this conference. This is going to be a fun end of the year race.
Yeah, the mid-February is going to get crazy because, like you said, Arizona's played the bottom of the Big 12 really for the most part. They've got a nasty schedule coming up, and I mean Kansas isn't easier either. I mean they passed the first couple tests with the win with BYU and Texas Tech. They get kind of a bye week this Saturday, but you get Arizona and Iowa State back to back. And then later on, you get Houston and Arizona back to back. If you're Kansas, that's brutal to try to go through when you're talking about a 1 or 2 games being what separates this. Like what Kansas lost to UCF early on, Arizona hasn't lost. Houston dropped 1 to Texas Tech. Like it seems like if you lose 3 games, you're going to be out of this race. That's going to be. I mean, I think Houston's got a rough run starting on Saturday, going through the 16th with BYU, Utah, Kansas State, Iowa State. And then Arizona right there, so going through the 21st, and then Kansas. Like it just there's no breaks. Iowa State is God only knows what Iowa State's going to be doing, but they've got maybe you could not really. They've got a rough stretch there with Kansas, Houston, BYU, Utah, Texas Tech, Arizona, like all in a run. Like the Big 12 is going to be fantastic to watch. Right now, Arizona's got it in a stranglehold because they're the only team without a loss, so they've got a little bit of cushion. Honestly, I think there's more of a chance that Miami, Ohio goes undefeated than there is Arizona carrying us through all the way through the Big 12, even though Arizona's looked like the best team in college basketball for a month and a half now.
And I don't think Arizona losing any of these games or 1 or 2 of these games or 2 or 3 of these games raises any major questions about this Arizona team. I mean, their non-con was an absolute gauntlet, and they're going to be going through a gauntlet here in February. And that's what you need to do to go into March. You need to play the toughest part of your schedule right then. I mean, momentum's a real thing, but at the very least, you'll kind of expose maybe some chinks in the armor, especially for having an undefeated season. You haven't been slapped in the mouth yet. So Maybe they get through this clean, but
How many of these games do you think they have to lose that one seed?
2 or 3.
You think? I was thinking it would be 4 or 5 you'd have to lose.
No, because I mean that would be reliant on everybody else with 1 or 2 losses losing as well. But like Duke's not losing, UConn's not losing. I mean, theoretically, right? But
I mean,
you have
your other one seeds are Michigan and Iowa State. Who, if Arizona's losing 4 or 5, that means Iowa State's grabbing an extra win. Houston's grabbing an extra win.
Yeah, entirely possible.
No, that's what I was thinking it would take, because 2 or 3 to me would put you right in line. Like you'd probably be the last one seed, but I think a lot of respect will be given to your non-conference. I think it'll take 4 or 5 for them to lose that one seed.
Yeah, I mean anything can happen. It's a crazy time of year.
No doubt about it. And then that's some great content and coverage of the Big 12 and the race that's leading up to it. That really sums it up in a nutshell. Let's move on to the Big 10.
I think the Big 10's still pretty wide open. I think Michigan is your hands down favorite, but Michigan's got a gauntlet coming up.
Yeah, Michigan and Illinois are tied at 10-1.
I mean, I think Purdue might have blown their shot going on the Schneid. I think the Illinois loss is palatable, even though you're up 4 late in the game. But the UCLA loss by 2 and then the Indiana loss in Indiana, those really hurt you. And with who they've got left, I don't think the window's open for them. Now, if they handle business against Oregon, beat Nebraska, and then beat Michigan, I think we start having a different conversation about Purdue again. But Michigan's got a gauntlet. I mean, they've got Michigan State, they've got Illinois, they've got Purdue. It's not going to be easy for Michigan here. Michigan State's going to be tested. I mean, they've only got a couple losses here in the Big Ten. Nebraska has probably got the best schedule out of everybody. If they can survive Purdue on Tuesday of next week, which is going to be an absolutely fantastic game, or at least it should be on paper, they might have the best shot at winning the conference. But I still think the Big Ten is very, very wide open.
See, I think it's a little bit more narrow, because I think Illinois has gone through the meat of their schedule, because they've got Michigan State once and Michigan once left on their schedule. The rest of it is like Northwestern, Wisconsin, Indiana. They go out west with USC and UCLA, and then finish with Oregon and Maryland. But I think they've passed the big test and then come through with one loss. I think Michigan State's schedule, Purdue, Nebraska has already lost twice, and you split with them. So I don't know how the tiebreakers work, but it feels like they've got a little bit more control of their own destiny than the other teams do. That's not to say like it's a super tight race. So one slip up is going to screw things up. Like if they lose to Michigan State at Michigan State, then that changes things. But the way those two teams are going right now, I would bet on Illinois to win that game. But that's just my opinion there. But like Purdue's not out of it, but they've lost all control of it.
Yeah,
they need people they need a lot of people to screw up a lot, and they've got to do real well. That I mean, you either win UCLA or you beat Indiana. It's a totally different scenario. But losing both those kind of took you out of winning the Big Ten this year.
And I go back to, if they do go into Nebraska and win, and if they do host Michigan and win, I think you start asking different questions about Purdue. Like Purdue preseason, everybody was high on them. Early in the season, we started asking questions. Then they went on a pretty good run there. The Iowa State loss seemed like an anomaly, and then they feel like they were exposed in January. But like I said, I think it changes the conversation. I still don't see a clear path to a Big Ten title for this team. Maybe a Big Ten tournament, but who gives a shit about the tournament?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like they played themselves out of a Big Ten regular season title. Not to say they're like that has anything to do with what they'll do in March or anything. It's just you screwed up the 2 games in a row where you couldn't afford to do that. If like Michigan and it's going to come out and not lose except for the one game, and then same with Illinois and all that. Like you're going to need some help if you want there. But stretching it down to Purdue, it's really just those 5 teams, mainly really the 3 teams. I think Nebraska has played themselves out with those back-to-back losses too, because you're going to have to need some help. And I don't know that they've got the games on the schedule to help themselves. So it's kind of out of your control too. So it's really the 3-team stretch with Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State.
And then we've got the SEC, which, Texas A&M sits there at the top, the Texas A&M Buckyball Aggies. Doesn't make any sense, but that's just the way the cookies crumbled so far, but it will not stay that way. Florida's a happy game back. Florida's the best team in the conference. I think that's pretty an overall consensus. But Texas A&M has the record to support their place.
Look, you guys are the SEC experts, so I'm going to keep what I'm going to say very, very brief. Texas A&M is just whistling past a graveyard right now. Just like, please don't notice me being in first place over here in the SEC. But from there, I'm going to let you guys take it.
Well, the next 10 days will tell you everything. They Alabama, Florida at home, Missouri at home, and then at Vanderbilt. If they get out of that 3-1, I'll be a believer. But I don't think 3-1 will happen whatsoever, because their SEC wins are LSU, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Georgia. They lost to Tennessee in double overtime when Tennessee was in the middle of a pretty rough struggle. So I've not seen anything that says they should be number one, but they are, so we can't take it away from them. The half game back is Florida, so like any slight little mistake you make here, Florida is going to pounce on. And I mean, there's a lot of teams that are 2 games back the way Tennessee's playing now, but Tennessee is unfortunately lost to the teams that are like ahead of them, like Florida, Kentucky, Arkansas. They're going to need all those teams to screw up a couple times so they don't give up on tiebreakers. But they're right in the mix. It was Arkansas that was going to be in the mix, but then they dropped to just lose to Kentucky. Kentucky beat them. So that kind of catapults Kentucky back into the mix a bit. So it's really Florida, Kentucky, maybe Texas A&M from the stand, like who has a chance to do it. But it's Florida. Like I said, Florida is just when they played the extra game, they lost the weird one to Auburn. And whatever happened there happened, and they're just waiting for Texas A&M to get caught up in the games played so they can lose. And Florida Alabama will probably get them, and then going to Gainesville, I could barely see like that 10-day stretch. I could very easily see 0-4 happen because Missouri is not. They're not great, but they can be sneaky. And then for Florida, like going back with Florida and Alabama, that's going to beat you up in a couple different ways.
No, I agree completely. There's not a ton to add to that, but I do think. For Florida, would really have to. It would have to be a blunder to throw this one away. The Texas A&M, I'm not a huge believer. Not saying they're bad, but they're pesky. And, Bucky Boy's got something going on. Turns out that turned out to be a pretty decent hire. We'll see what happens in the future, but he's managed this season so far pretty well. So that's been definitely a bit of a surprise for the conference. I'll definitely say that and give him credit for that.
Yeah. I thought it was a great hire when they picked him up.
Yeah.
I just didn't expect results first year. That you've got to be feeling good with. Especially in a school that doesn't prioritize basketball whatsoever. You got to be feeling good that you made a hire. It's a young guy that should be staying around for a while, especially when he gets a chance to get his players in. I'm worried what happens because that bucky ball is hard to prepare for, and it's such a change of pace from the rest of your schedule 9 times out of 10. That makes it tough because that's a totally different way to prepare. And then you got to switch back. So if you get caught midweek or something like that on them, you could very easily lose a game by a lot more than what you should lose one by.
For the SEC, who do you think, if you had to pick a team that for a tournament team for the SEC tournament to really make a splash and potentially maybe steal a spot in the NCAA tournament and win the whole thing? Is there anybody that's really kind of lurking around that you can see make a splash? Because there's always one that is kind of like there's always like an Ole Miss, Georgia,
Not Ole Miss.
But I don't see that happening.
I think there is a pretty strong line. Texas could be one that could be interesting.
Good point.
They're easy to figure out, but Texas very easily could be. I don't know if they would steal a bid, but it could definitely knock off somebody.
I agree with that. That's a good
give somebody else their extra loss. Like Texas, Auburn maybe too. Like kind of fills the same boat. Those 2 teams could very well make a run and get themselves into the tournament that like lock up their bid, and so it's not a debate anymore. Then that pushes somebody out down the end. But it would be. I don't really see either one of those happening because those 2 teams are going to have to, because the SEC is so big now, and since they allow everybody in the SEC tournament, that is a whole. It's almost as bad. It's probably harder to win those big tournaments like that than it is to win the NCAA because you don't have a day off in between. So like if you're not getting a bye, at least 1 bye or 2 byes, you're playing. I think it's 6 games in 6 days or something, and that's just murder. And because you're going through, like, there's no bye week. Like you're not getting a 13 seed. You're getting somebody that's probably at best, at worst, a 12 seed, and rush through. Like I don't know, but it's still SEC's Florida's until somebody shows me something different.
Yep, I agree.
quick live look in. This St. Louis Davidson game has been absolutely fantastic. Davidson's kind of starting to stretch the lead a little bit here. They just put it up to 8, but every time that Davidson's done anything of note, St. Louis has kind of stormed back. So absolutely fantastic game here.
I'll have to check that out.
A10's fun basketball this year.
For sure. I had on the SMU NC State game. The camera angle is currently from the moon for this game. So
you have to watch it from Oklahoma.
Yeah, truly. It is very weird to watch, and it is tripping me out. All right, so for our bench behavior, it's going to be Jamal Mashburn saying that Cooper Flagg would be the 6th best rookie to come out of this class. What an asinine, incredible comment. The guts to say it. I'll give him credit for that, but what a foolish comment that is.
Yeah, same guy who said Braden Smith is a system point guard. I can take about as seriously as I take my 2-year-old when he tells me whatever gibberish story he wants to tell me about whatever happened at daycare that is not in English. But everybody's entitled to their takes. I mean, hell, us three are proving that podcast equipment should be more expensive on a daily basis here. But Jamal Mashburn, this is a bad take, bud. Like you might want to rethink this one because it's a strong disagree for me on this one.
Christian Laettner had to stomp all the smarts out of this guy. He's never had anything good there. Like that's the only explanation we have because Cooper Flagg's got 5 games as an NBA rookie where he's scoring 30 plus or more. He's averaging almost 20 a night, and I mean he's coming off back-to-back games where he went 49-10 and 34-12. And the 34-12 was against the Rockets, who are doing pretty well in the NBA and have guys like Kevin Durant and stuff that can match with him.
Size. Yeah, I heard of
like to think that a guy that is performing at the NBA level wouldn't be taken ahead of Carlos Boozer. I mean, I can maybe see the argument if you want to do Darren Peterson, but I'm not even sure like that's the only one I think you could make an argument over because he does like Cooper Flagg does everything. He affects every part of the game. He plays defense and he doesn't get hurt. And they're like, not most of these guys aren't also affecting the game as much defensively as he is. And the fact that he's like, podcast equipment probably should be more expensive but we're here on YouTube, but that's a free account. Nobody's paying us. He's getting paid a lot of money to talk on national TV about a sport he clearly just doesn't understand. Like it's 0 cents.
Yep. 100% with you. And also it's Cam Boozer.
Yeah, him too.
Your Duke bias is showing. I heard the Carlos and I was like, 90s kid.
I've been watching Duke basketball for a long time.
He's a 90s kid. Look at him.
I mean, would you take Cooper Flagg over Carlos? I don't know.
Carlos had a good NBA career.
He did.
He was solid.
It was a lot of all-star. The only mistake he really made was painting his hair that one time.
Yes, I saw somebody on Twitter. They said something about Carlos Boozer's beard and something that he peels off and lays on his bedside table at night. Yeah. Because it does look so.
It's like, clearly because I mean he did that in the NBA and it was the most obvious thing in the world when he painted his hairline on. People tend to forgotten about that because he's old and Jaylen Brown's out there leaving his hair on people's jerseys.
I love one of my favorite tweets ever was after the LeBron James, was it the Cavs when they came back down from 3-1 or whatever? It's like, what if I told you that James's hairline was the greatest comeback story of this year?
That's good. I love that.
Speaking of comebacks,
come on, Jake. Be good to yourself. Speaking of comebacks, we need to go kick one off here for our team. The coach is looking like he's going to lean on us, which is a horrible decision, but here we are.
Horrible.
See y'all next blowout.
Hey, take care, y'all.